Roe versus Wade is no more. The U.S. Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, has overturned the right to an abortion and returns abortion rights and restrictions to the states. Dr. Eddy Carder, a constitutional law expert and professor at Prairie View A&M University, joins us this morning to talk more about this. Dr. Carder, thanks so much for being on with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Now, since this ruling came down on Friday, there are, of course, a lot of strong opinions on both sides. What does this mean going forward?
Well, this is one of the more interesting and really radical decisions that the court has made in a long time. They overturned 50 years of precedent. In the future, there are a number of concerns that really emerge from this decision, not the least of which are the implications of this decision for future decisions that the court might make with regard to the issue of privacy rights, with regard to the issue of contraception, with regard to the issue of same-sex marriage. In fact, Justice Thomas alluded to the possibility and the need to revisit those matters and those concerns. And so we are anxiously anticipating what the future might hold with regard to those issues. Certainly, if the reasoning of the current decision regarding the overturning of Roe v. Wade is applied in those instances, then those liberty rights and those freedoms and those privacy rights also would appear to be in jeopardy as well. But we will have to wait to see how that plays itself out. Justice Alito, I should say, indicated that abortion lies in a different category than these other rights. However, we have to take Justice Thomas and other justices' comments at their face value. These things may be revisited and also are in jeopardy, it would appear, based upon this reasoning.
Now, speaking about Texas specifically, it is one of the states with a trigger law in place. Can you explain that and what that means for Texans?
Absolutely. With regard to the Texas trigger law, the law itself really signifies that 30 days after this decision has been made, abortion will be illegal in the state of Texas. Automatically. The court has obviously kicked this decision with regard to abortion to the states. And so the trigger law would trigger anti-abortion guidelines in the state of Texas. It's the Republican Party in the state of Texas celebrated this decision. Obviously, the Democratic, the more progressive party, was very disappointed and disturbed by the decision. And so the reality is, for all practical purposes, currently abortion is not an option in the state of Texas, and that has some very, very practical implications for females and for minorities and for other people groups in the state of Texas. So we can argue it on a legal basis, but practically abortion is no longer an option in the state of Texas. And Planned Parenthood and other organizations are working to address that issue and find a way to continue providing some aspect of services, whether it's travel or whatever, with regard to providing abortions.
Yeah, Dr. Carder, I'd like to talk a little bit about corporations in the workplace setting. Are there any implications for corporations paying for employees' access?
This is something that really many had not thought about. Corporations, as you say, are anticipating or planning on providing benefits and opportunities and support for their employees who are desiring abortion services or who are in need of abortion services. And so currently there is much talk with regard to the role of the state that is against abortion, taking legal action against those corporations. We don't know exactly how that's going to play itself out at this point. Certainly, it would be very interesting with the Conservative Party being very pro-corporation corporation. In the past, this would be a very anti-corporation stance. And so we will just have to wait to see what the legal boundaries and the legal ramifications of that particular issue, how it plays itself out. And certainly that'll be a very, very important aspect of the future implications of this decision for in the corporate context and employees' lives.
Absolutely. Also, we've been talking about this morning throughout our newscast, specific to the city of Austin. Council members for the city of Austin are considering introducing what would be a grace act in hopes of making abortion the lowest level crime priority. Do you think other cities within states that are expected to ban abortion may follow suit?
Absolutely. We're already hearing debate and discussion throughout the nation with regard to prosecutors who are going to make this a low-level issue, a low-priority issue, and finding a way to get around the decision in that sense. So this is going to play itself out not only in our state but also throughout the nation. I would add to that, in addition to that, is this fact that we were already hearing discussions on the other side with regard to the need for a federal mandate or federal law legislation against abortion or prohibiting abortion. So it doesn't look as though this battle is going to stop with regard to the limitation of abortion and punting it to the states' rights. So this battle is continuing on, and it's in the midst of all the controversy. I think we have to remember that this is a very human issue. Lives are really practically impacted by this issue, regardless of how we feel about it. So while we might get caught up in all the legal ramifications, and those are by far very, very important, humanity is in the midst of this situation, and we have to think about that as well. It's a very, very contentious time with regard to this issue.
Yeah, definitely many conversations that will take place surrounding this issue. Dr. Carder, thank you so much for your time this morning and for joining us here on Good Day Austin.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.